Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to Fife once again, and we've got a very small local brewery to have a look at today, and this is going to be my very first time tasting one of their beers. I don't think you can even get their beers in all that many different shops. So for this one we're going to go to Limekilns, which is just to the kind of south of Dunfermline, not far from Rosyth, and we're having a taste of the Brucehaven beer, which comes in at 6% ABV, and this one is a coffee smoked porter. So yeah, it should be really nice. This was another beer that I picked up at the corner shop in Crossgates, just next to Dunfermline and Fife. So a big shout out to Robert there for recommending this one, and I will put the Facebook link to his shop in the description below. So if you are watching from the Fife area or even from the Edinburgh area and you pass through often, I do recommend that you go and have a little look at this shop in Crossgate. Robert's got a nice wee selection of different craft beers from all over the place. He's just starting up, so do make sure you give him some support. But yeah, so as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Brewshed Beers. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, like I said. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. Sorry, my brain's not working today. There is one there for all of the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you before, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brewshed Beer then, so as I mentioned to you, Brewshed are a nano brewery based in Limekilns in Fife, which is just a little bit to the south of Dunfermline, very close to the port of Rosyth, where the naval base is actually. But the brewery was started by Stephen Hope in January of 2016, and they're based at Wellhead's house, and it's literally Stephen brewing in his shed. So the last brewery in Limekilns was apparently the Brucehaven brewery, which of course this beer I believe is named after, but this closed around 1867. But Stephen is the managing director of Ipsos Mori in Scotland, which is a company that does things like when it comes to the election, they phone up people and do sort of polling and research and stuff like this. But he started homebrewing as a hobby before one of his local pubs, which is the Ship Inn in Limekilns, offered to start selling his beers, and this led him to actually register the company officially and sell beer with a license and things like that. And all the beers, of course, are named after local things. I think Brucehaven actually might be a local town or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but there was previously a brewery in Limekilns called the Brucehaven Brewery. But it's always cool to find little local breweries like this, and it is cool to kind of highlight them for you here on the channel. So those of you watching in Scotland, do keep an eye out for this brewery in the future. They're only about a year old, so these beers will be very local at the moment. But that's always an exciting thing, and that's what the whole craft beer movement is all about, of course. So this one is best before November 2017. It says on the side here, Brewshed beers are genuine craft beers and made in very small batches in our nano brewery in Limekilns, Fife. It just tells you a little bit about serving it here, and it says smoked malt, chocolate malt and a little coffee recreate the dark flavour of the classic English porter developed when grains were malted with coal and wood. So yeah, nicely presented this one. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this. I do like the artwork on that actually. It is kind of quite classic. I'm very curious to see, as I always tell you when it comes to Scottish craft beer, there's always two types of breweries, of course. There tend to be the ones who brew the more traditional, real ale styles of beer, and then you get the ones who brew the more American, New World style. So I'm very interested to see how these guys turn out, because I know they do some golden ales and some pale ales and stuff like this. This one, of course, was bottled on the 29th of April. I do like that little touch, actually. They put the sticker on the top of the bottle there to let you know when it was bottled and things like that. That's a nice touch. But let's get this guy out then, and we'll see how we get on. Yeah, nice smoky opening there. You can smell some of that nice kind of chocolate coming out of this. I did hear that you have to be a bit careful with this one when you're pouring it, because there might be a couple of coffee beans left in it, but we'll see that. We'll just be careful while we're doing it just now, and I'm sure I'll get a wee treat at the end. But look at that. That looks really nice. That's about 2/3 of it out and into the glass. But yeah, as you can see, it's poured kind of exactly as you would expect from a porter. If I hold it up to the light, it does have a little bit of a ruby edge to it, so it's a nice kind of dark sort of chestnut, mahogany, ruby sort of colour, this beer. It's got a lot of ruby in it actually. I think if it was a little bit lighter it would be just a little bit hazy, but it does have a good degree of transparency to it. So there's a finger and a half of a frothy, kind of beigey tan head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall it looks really nice and pretty much what you would expect from a porter beer. I was expecting it to be a little bit more hazy right enough, but let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. That smells really nice actually. You can definitely pick up the nice coffee bean smoothness in this straight away. There's a little bit of that roasted black malt backbone as well, and some of the sweetness from the chocolate's definitely there, and I think there's a good bit of brown sugar presence. Yeah, to me it's just a really interesting aroma, this one. It smells very, very smooth, if that makes sense. It's kind of, yeah, it's got a smooth sort of sweetness. I think that's a good way to describe this one. So like I say, you can smell that smooth coffee bean character in there. There's a good bit of earthiness as well. I mean, you'll get earthiness from the hops. I would assume in this beer they use English hops of some description, because of course I always find the English hops work really well with these sort of dark stout and porter beers. So you can smell the earthiness in that. There's a little bit of grassiness I think coming out it as well, and that's the other kind of key component of English hops too. But you can definitely smell that that coffee has a nice sort of, almost slightly, the coffee that they've used in this does have a little bit of a floral character to it. I would say that about this. But yeah, so the aroma is kind of straight up in what you'd expect. As I say, coffee beans, the coffee itself has a little bit of earthiness and floral character to it. You can pick up a little bit of grassiness from the hop, but some sweet chocolate. I'm not getting much of the smoky character right enough. I'm not getting too much of that, but some sweet chocolate, some brown sugars, and quite a bit of toasted brown sugar I would say at that. It's quite a dark brown sugar that this one has, chocolate like I said, and some roasted black malts in the backbone, but it smells really nice. There's a wee bit of a red fruity sharpness to it. It does have a little bit of a figgy note, and you can smell a little bit of this kind of sharp, kind of candied red fruit ester as well. So it's an interesting aroma, this one. It does smell more like a kind of traditional beer rather than anything else. It does smell kind of quite like a traditional beer rather than anything else, of course, but it does smell really quite nice. So yeah, as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into this one. But yeah, let's have a try this beer now then. So this one is the Brucehaven, a coffee smoked porter from the Brewshed beers over in Limekilns in Fife. Really cool to try this beer when it's so young actually. Slàinte. That's really smooth. That's a nice beer, I have to say that. It is definitely, on first taste, this is one of the more kind of traditional styles of beer. I think that it's straight up. It does taste like it's a sort of, it would be ideal as being a cask conditioned beer. The first thing you'll notice about this one is just how smooth the mouthfeel is. Yeah, that's really good. It's just, this one's one of these beers where it's not punchy in any one regard. It's supposed to just be nice and drinkable, and it's all about how these kind of flavours combine together, and it achieves that quite well. 6% ABV as well. You know, I've had some porters that are sort of 4.5% and 5%. This one works well. You can just pick up the fact that this beer is a little bit more boozy, but it's really, really smooth. And as I say, I'm pretty sure the impression I have of this brewery now is that they are the more kind of traditional English real ale style of brewery, this one. But they certainly have done a nice job of this. This one goes down really easy. So yeah, as I always say, sugar, if you're trying this beer yourself, sugar it around your palate and let your whole mouth adjust to this. So yeah, with this one, it's really, you can feel the smoothness of this beer. You know, there's a little bit of a roasted black malt backbone, but you don't get all that much bitterness from it. As you move further and further into the aftertaste, you've seen how long it was since I took a sip of this beer. But as you move further and further into the aftertaste on this one, you can feel a little bit of that bitterness pushing its way out. There's a wee bit of a sort of slightly bready character to it as well. It does have a bit of that, and but you get a lot of the coffee bean smoothness. You can feel that, just that light coffee bean smoothness just blanketing the middle of your palate. On top of that, you start to get some of the sweeter kind of chocolate notes. I'm not picking up all that much in the way of brown sugar in this one. I was expecting there would be a little bit of a kind of toasted caramelly note, but I'm not getting too much of that at all in this beer. But it's good. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. It's got a really, really nice smoothness to it. And in terms of the more kind of traditional style beers, I think this is probably one of the better porters I've come across actually. I like how the smoothness comes across. I would say the coffee notes in this one are quite subtle. Honestly, I don't drink coffee at all because it keeps me awake all the time. I just cannot sleep regardless of what time I would drink it during the day. But the coffee flavours in this one are just nice and subtle. It just kind of gives another layer of complexity to the beer, and that's what I like it for. You can get some really big kind of beastly imperial stouts. I mean, the Sadamo Dimtu that I had from Dugas Brewery over in Sweden was one that was a really beautiful coffee stout. But this one it's just a completely different change of pace from that. That is really nice. That, as I say, that's one of the nicer porter beers I've come across in the traditional category of brewing. In terms of the hoppiness in this beer, in the back corners of the palate, you've got that typical earthiness as you'd expect, but it's very, very smooth. As you come forward along the sides of your palate, you get just a little tiny bit of bitterness in the front corner of your tongue, but then as you go round the very front curve of the palate, that's where you get some of this nice lighter kind of grassy character coming out of the beer. But it's really well done. This beer is all about how everything kind of blends together. This is a good beer to enjoy with like a brownie or vanilla ice cream or something like that. That's what this beer would go really nicely with. If you just go behind the little front curve of the tongue, the front curve of your tongue, then you'll feel that little oily bubble where the fruity esters come out. And for me, there's just a wee bit of a slightly candied red fruit ester in this beer as well. Yeah, if you just feel that little bit behind the front curve of your tongue, you'll feel that little juicy red ester coming out of there. And it reminds me a little bit of these kind of Haribo Star Mix heart-shaped sweets. That's what it reminds me of here. It's not got the sharpness of raisins or plums or anything like that. It could be a little figgy, to be honest. It could be a little bit like that. And as darker beers tend to oxidise, that's when you start to get a little bit more of this sort of red fruity character coming out of the beer. But this is really nicely done. As I said, in the traditional category of Scottish beers, or the category of traditional Scottish beers I should say, this one is a really nice kind of well done porter. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again, and I would love to try it on cask and just see how it comes out there, because the smoothness that it has even in the bottle, if you blind tasted this, you could be forgiven for thinking that this is a cask beer straight out the tap. But really nicely done. In the aftertaste, it's a little, that coffee bean smoothness is just lingering there, and that and a bit of the chocolate sweetness. There is some graininess to this beer as well in the middle of the palate. I'm not getting too much of the smokiness, I have to admit. They were saying it's a coffee smoked porter. I don't know if it's smoked coffee they've used in it, but I'm not getting too much in the way of smokiness from this beer. But overall, it is really quite nice. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again. But in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say it's mid-bodied. The carbonation is really smooth. It's got a big, slightly creamy but also a little bit oily mouthfeel. The malts are a good balance between, there's a little bit of sweetness there, but it does have a little bit of, it has a good balance between that bitterness that you would expect from the coffee beans, and everything just goes together really quite smoothly. The hops have a little bit of bitterness, but again, overall, they are really smooth. It's only around the front corners of the palate that you get a little bit of that, and there's a wee bit of juicy, fruity character in there as well. But overall, it's a really quite nice beer, and it is cool to see a brewery that's only about a year old able to produce something like this. And in terms of the traditional Scottish beers, I think they've done a nice job of this. As I always say, it's not really fair to compare the kind of New World American style beers to the traditional Old World styles, and some of the breweries kind of like to kind of hover along that borderline, so I would be interested to try one of their lighter beers and see how they do that. But this one, for me, it fits into the category of a kind of traditional London style porter, which seems to be what they were going for. So a big thumbs up to Stephen over at Brewshed for this one, and hopefully I can try some more of these beers in the near future. But it's been really cool to review a very new and very kind of local brewery to me. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this beer, and I'm sure I will return to them in the near future. But if they can brew beers like this, so they're only brewing on a very small scale, if they did want to expand, I'm sure they would do pretty well with this. So yeah, thank you once again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do let me know your own thoughts on this beer if you have tried it below in the comment section, and do let me know what your favourite beers are from Brewshed Beers as well. But like I say, hopefully I can return to these guys in the fairly near future and try a few more of their beers. But until the next time, Slàinte just out, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out Brewshed Beers from Limekilns in Fife. This one was the coffee smoked porter, the Brucehaven. Slàinte just now.